So it is a documented fact that edge geometry can have a larger influence on edge retention than the actual steel itself, or it could have a very great influence, so to say. So I wanted to actually see to what end we can actually take a look at that. So what I want to do is take a great steel, a more premium steel, and put it at a geometric disadvantage against a budget steel. So we have this QSP Penguin in S90V, and this S90V has been sharpened to 21.5 degrees per side, and it is 21 thousandths behind the edge. And then we have this Olitans Lemon Shark. So I was recently provided this knife by Olitans to give a review, and one of the first things that stood out to me about it when I was measuring it up and taking a look is that it is extremely thin behind the edge, which is fantastic to see. It's going to have great slicing performance with that geometry. So we've got 14 thousandths behind the edge, and I sharpened it down to 18.5 degrees per side. So we're thinner behind the edge, and we have a shallower edge angle. Now, factory, this was actually 13 thousandths behind the edge, but when I lowered that edge angle, sometimes that increases your thickness behind the edge because you're bringing back the line where the edge actually, that secondary bevel begins. Anyway, so I wanted to do our standard edge retention testing with these to see if the better geometry can beat out the better steel. So these have both been freshly sharpened to 600 grit on the TS Prof, and they were stropped with some 3-micron gunny juice diamond paste on a leather strop. Otherwise, they are fresh edges. So let's see if geometry can beat steel. So some initial sharpness tests here. Both can shave very well. And let's see how they cut this very thin ad paper. Very nice. Flying right through it with the Olitans, QSP Penguin and S90V. Very easy as well. Got a little tear there. That's more so the thin paper than the edge. Going a little too fast. And the QSP can shave very well as well. All right. So let's go ahead and put some numbers to some initial sharpness with the best tester. Go ahead and start with QSP. Now for the Olitans Lemon Shark in the 10Cr. So our initial average for the Lemon Shark in 10Cr, which is a VG10 equivalent steel, by the way, is 122. Very nice and sharp. The S90V initial average is 146. Those are still within the same range of sharpness. Between 100 and 150 is generally the same range on the best scale. So that is very sharp as well. So let's go ahead and we'll do our 150 cuts through cardboard and 50 cuts through some sisal rope, and we'll come back and test and see how these edges held up. All right, performance. The Olitans Lemon Shark for I think this is a $55. I think they come in between $45 and $55. This is like their more premium version with like a stonewash satin two-tone and the PEI handle scales. But I mean, this thing performed excellently, especially for a knife at that price range. I thought the clip would be a little bit of a hot spot here, but it actually works out fine. It's somewhat of a I don't want to say thick, but it's on the thicker side for the handles, but that really fills out the hand well, and it feels good during use. But that low behind the edge thickness really helped with the performance. Passed through material very nicely. It was a very, very excellent knife to use. It cut the rope very well with that great drop point blade shape. So let's go ahead and see how the edge on this one held up. I know by the time that I got to the rope, and it could just be the geometry and the blade shape, but cutting that rope felt much easier with the Lemon Shark. And wow, that is still cutting that ad paper pretty well, surprisingly well after all of that. I mean, I'm just surprised. There are, we know that geometry is what cuts. That's really what determines the performance, and that has the big effect on edge retention as well. So it's really, really nice to see such a nicely priced knife be able to perform so well. Now, I did drop the edge angle on it a little bit when I sharpened it, but that's something you probably should be doing anyway. Very nice. I'm impressed. Will it shave? Not a lot of knives will shave after that test. And towards the tip, but the tip didn't really see a lot of action, so I don't want to count that. No, we are not shaving. All right, let's see how the Penguin does, the S90V. Olitans Lemon Shark was in 10Cr, which is equivalent of VG10. Let's see how the S90V is cutting. Still cutting very well. A little rough. I can really feel once it gets into that spot that saw a lot of the action. It's definitely slowing down and feels like it's tearing a little bit. It's not wanting to just glide through as easily. Will it shave? No, we are not shaving. Maybe got one or two. All right, let's go ahead and put some numbers to this with the best tester and see how they held up. We will start again with the Penguin. All right, now for the Lemon Shark. Well, holy shit. So we have this 10Cr, which is a VG10 equivalent knife, Olitans Lemon Shark. Had an initial sharpness of 122, and that went up to 173 for just a 51 gram on average increase. The S90V Pelican, we had an initial sharpness of 146. That went up on average to 271, or 125 gram increase. The better geometry with the less superior steel had almost 2.5 times the edge retention that the S90V did. And I gotta say, when I was using it, felt like it had much better performance as well. So there are things that you can control with your knife. If you want to lower the edge angle and you're good at sharpening, you can do that. That's something you can do. Thickness behind the edge, that has a lot to do with how well a knife actually performs. That's something that you can't really control as much as you, unless you want to start talking about removing material and doing a regrind yourself or get into that mess. But this knife with much thinner geometry, I lowered the edge angle from the factory just by maybe 1 degree. I think it came right around like 19.5, 20. But I really wanted to make it as different as I could geometry-wise from the superior steel. So we can see S90V steel, a premium steel, versus 10Cr or VG10 with a premium geometry. The 10Cr beat it out very much. Check out an Olitans Lemon Shark. I mean, this thing is impressive for $55. I really couldn't be more happy with it. And I gotta say, I'm not making any money off of you going and buying an Olitans. I don't have an affiliate link or anything like that, but in all transparency, they did provide it to me, but I'm really glad that they did. This was something that I had my eye on regardless. So I'm really glad I had the opportunity to check it out. I'm not just trying to sell this knife. You saw the test results yourself. Now we want to, if you want to talk about the questionability of the S90V and the QSP Penguin, how do we know that this 10Cr is treated any better? Well, the results did show that, but how much of that had to do with the geometry? But the geometry is really what we're looking at here. So really happy with the results from the Lemon Shark here. Not so happy with the S90V coming from the QSP Penguin on this side, but pretty impressed. Pretty impressed that geometry alone made that much of a difference. I hope you found these results interesting as well. Thank you for watching.